Dear students, in continuation of mechanics, the first part of mechanics, we are going to learn about various aspects related to motion of the object. In intermediate first year, there are 14 chapters. The first two chapters are just like introductory regarding physics, and out of 14 chapters around there are 8 chapters related to mechanics. Now let us straight away go to mechanics. What do you mean by mechanics? Mechanics is the branch of physics which deals with the motion of the object. The purpose of the physics, out of many purposes, the one of the purposes of physics is to study the motion of the objects. This is the only science which tries to study the motion of the object. The motion may include speed, velocity, acceleration, momentum, etc. So, motion is the part of our life. Human beings, animals, insects, all machines, aeroplanes, and many things are moving in the world. Not only these objects, the whole universe is moving. So, moving is part and parcel of the life. For your astonishment, even the mountains are also moving, such as Himalayas. But we say they are at rest. But actually speaking, they are on the earth. So, earth is revolving around the sun. It is also spinning about its own axis. This earth is revolving around the sun. We say sun is at rest. But actually speaking, sun is also in motion. The sun is moving around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. This Milky Way galaxy is also not at rest. Even that is also moving with respect to other galaxies. Even on the earth, we have got tectonic plates, they are also moving. So everything is moving. There is nothing at rest. Both motion and rest are relative terms. What do you mean by relative terms? You cannot say something is moving and also something is at rest without taking some reference. So, without taking the reference, it is impossible to describe its state of rest or state of motion. For example, a mountain is at rest with respect to a person who is also standing on the earth near the mountain. For him, this mountain is at rest. For example, if you consider a person who is standing on the moon, with respect to the person standing on the moon, this mountain is also moving, but it is not at rest. So, for this person A, mountain is at rest. For this person B, the mountain is in motion. So, that is the reason why they are called relative terms, right? So, mechanics deals with the motion of the objects. This is the branch of physics which deals with the motion of the objects. Mechanics is further divided into two more categories. One is called dynamics, the other one is called statics. What do you mean by dynamics? Dynamics deals with the accelerated objects. What do you mean by acceleration? We will be knowing about acceleration in few minutes. So, for this moment, let us say we deal with the objects for which the acceleration is not zero in the case of dynamics. Now, what do you mean by statics? It is not, don't be confused with statistics. Statistics is related to mathematics. What do you mean by statics? So, it is generally deals with the equilibrium of an object or of a system. What do you mean by equilibrium? Though there are forces acting, the system is at rest. For example, you take the example of a simple balance. This is a simple balance. If I keep equal weights, that is W1 is equal to W2, the indicator in the middle will be at rest. In this case, this balance is said to be in equilibrium. So statics deals with the objects for which acceleration is zero. Acceleration is zero in two cases. One is in this equilibrium situation. The other one is when the velocity is constant. What do you mean by velocity and what do you mean by uniform velocity? That we will be learning in few minutes. Now, this dynamics is once again divided into two categories. So it is categorized based on the term force. So you know, without applying force, it is not possible to make something move, or to stop a moving object, I have to apply force. So the first category in dynamics is kinematics. In kinematics, we study about the motion of the object without the cause of the object. The cause of the object is force. So I am not considering the reason behind the motion of the object. Simply I am trying to describe the motion of the object. Whereas in kinetics, we deal force also. So it is the branch of mechanics which studies about the motion of the object with giving due respect to force, with giving due reference to the force. So this we study in 5th chapter. So kinematics is mainly related to Newton's laws of motion. So that comes in 5th chapter. Now we started with motion. Motion is something or whose position is changing with respect to time. So in order to describe motion, I should consider two things. One is position, the other one is time. So in order to find out the position of some object, I have to take some reference, generally a coordinate system, x, y, z coordinate system. So with reference to this origin, something is at this position, let us say x1. So it can move from x1 to x2. So with respect to this one, that is the origin. So this coordinate system is called frame of reference. So without taking a frame of reference, I cannot describe the position. For example, I give the example, I will ask the address of your residence. You will say that is in the, that is in order to describe the address or in order to tell the position of your residence, you have to take the reference of something. For example, your house is exactly opposite to the government junior college, or your house is just behind the temple. So in this way we are taking another reference. Without telling the reference, we cannot find, we cannot locate anything. So even for describing motion, I should know position and time. These are the two coordinates which are essential to describe the motion of the object. I think it is clear, right? Now motion can be of three types. The first type is called translatory motion. The second one is called rotatory or circular motion. And the third one is called oscillatory or vibratory motion. These are the three types of motions. What do you mean by translatory motion? In translatory motion, object goes from one place to another place. The whole object moves from one place to another place. That is translatory motion. In rotatory motion, the object revolves. For example, if this is a sphere, it revolves about its own axis. The best example is a ceiling fan. That is rotatory motion. And what do you mean by circular motion? For example, the motion of the planets. So planetary motion is related to circular motion. Or better thing is, you take a small pebble, you tie it with a thread and you rotate it with the help of your finger. In that case, the pebble is undergoing circular motion. Now, what do you mean by oscillatory or vibratory motion? So, if something is making oscillation, the best example is a swing or a simple pendulum. Vibratory means moving forward and backward, that is to and fro motion. So, these are the three types of motions. So, we have all these, we will discuss all these three types of motion under mechanics in various chapters. Now, the translatory motion can be of three types further. What do you mean by one dimensional motion? One dimensional motion, or it is also motion along a straight line. What do you mean by one dimensional motion? In order to describe the motion of the object, if I require only one axis, then that is called one dimensional motion. So, it is obvious that the object is moving along a line, along a straight line, along a line. So, this is called a one dimensional motion. For example, there is a wire on which a small ant is moving. It can move in, if it is x axis, it can move in the positive x direction, it can move in the negative x direction. Right. There is another type of motion, two dimensional motion. That is motion in a plane. To describe two dimensional motion, I require two axes. Let us say this is x axis and y axis. You take the example of same ant and it is moving on the wall or on this board. So, to describe its position, I should take two coordinates, x coordinate and y coordinate. If it is moving from x1, y1 to another coordinate or point x2, y2, I have to take two axes. Motion can be three dimensional. That is, you take the example of a fly or you take the example of a mosquito. So, mosquito can go in the space which requires three axes, that is x, y and z. In order to describe its position, I have to take x, y, z. Though the name of the chapter is motion on a straight line, it must be motion along a straight line. We will discuss two dimensional and as well as three dimensional. The basic difference is, to describe two dimensional and three dimensional motion, we should take position vector. That is very, very important. So, two dimensional motion requires vectors that we already dealt in the first three chapters. You might be remembering. We took a position vector. So, position vector where we wrote r bar, that is vector r is equal to xi plus yj plus zk. If you did not remember, please once again go through those three videos. So, this is about the basic picture of the mechanics. As I told you, the major chunk of our syllabus is based on mechanics. The second part of our syllabus is properties of matter. Properties of matter. And the third part of our syllabus is heat and thermodynamics. Is it clear? So, now I am going to explain the basic terms, that is the terminology related to one dimensional motion, that is nothing but motion along a straight line. The first term that we come across in mechanics is motion. As I told you, if the position of the object is changing with respect to time as well as with respect to its surroundings, then that object is said to be in motion. The best example is, you are going to the college. You started at 9 o'clock. While you are going in the bus, while you are traveling, your surroundings are changing. Suppose you started at 9 o'clock and you reached the college by 9:30. So, as the time is elapsing, the surroundings are also changing. If with respect to the surroundings and with respect to the time, if your position is not changing, then that object is said to be at rest. For rest, we also use a term in physics generally that is called stationary object. Stationary means the object is at rest. Now, what is the difference between distance and displacement? In our general life, interchangeably we use one and the same, right? Now, what is distance? Suppose you take the example of an ant. Actually speaking, distance and displacements can be distinguished only in two-dimensional or in three-dimensional motion. In the case of a straight line motion, it is not possible. One thing you should remember, straight line motion is almost all impossible motion. You cannot go along a straight line. Nobody never tries to move along a straight line. It is practically impossible. We see a motion along a straight line in the case of a freely falling object. You take a pebble and just you drop it from certain height. Definitely it will fall along a straight line. So this is the best example. You can throw a ball vertically upwards, but throwing vertically upwards is also almost all impossible. By using a machine gun, I can fire bullets such that it makes exactly 90 degrees, or it goes in some other directions. So by using a machine, I can send something along a straight line, right? Now, you take the example of our previous example of ant. So this ant is moving on the plane. Let us say it can go in different directions in the search of food or something else. So this is the actual path followed by the ant. This total length of the path followed by the ant is called distance. So distance is the total length of the path. Now, what do you mean by displacement? Displacement is the shortest distance between the starting point and the final point. So this is the final point and this is the starting point. So this is called displacement. In the case of distance, the direction is changing. The ant is changing its direction continuously. Whereas in this, it has got only one particular direction. So this displacement is a vector because it has got only one direction. Whereas the distance is changing its direction. That is the reason why. So distance is a scalar quantity. So in our daily life, what do we have? Distance or a displacement? In our daily life, we have both, but we experience distance. I will give the example. You started at your home, you went here and there, you met your friends, you played in the ground and you came back to your home. Now what is your distance? So distance is this much. Let us say you travel for 5 kilometers. But your displacement is 0. Why the displacement is 0? Your starting point and ending point is nothing but your residence. You started at this point and you ended up your journey at the same point. So that is the reason why displacement is less than or equal to distance. Displacement can be negative, displacement can be positive, displacement can be 0, but distance is always positive. It will have some value. Suppose you traversed a circular path, your displacement is 0, but your distance is not 0, which is equal to 2 pi r. You can take a number of examples, you can solve problems. For example, you are going in these two paths which are perpendicular to each other. Now what is your distance? Your distance is this total length. Let us say you traveled here 3 kilometers, then you turn left and you traveled for 4 kilometers. Now your distance is how much? 3 plus 4, 7 kilometers. But the displacement is this one. You have to make use of vector addition that we discussed in the previous videos. So this is a right angle triangle. So I have to take 3 square plus 4 square. That comes out to be 9 plus 16 under root 25. So this is 5 kilometer. See, your distance is 7 kilometer and displacement is 5 kilometer, which is following this rule. Right. Both distance and displacements are measured in meters in SI units. In general, we use kilometers, right? Now, we will try to differentiate two more basic terms related to motion. They are speed and velocity. But in our daily life, we don't use velocity. We all the time use speed only, right? Like distance we use in our daily life. What do you mean by speed? Suppose you travel for 2 kilometers. You travel for 2 kilometers, not along a straight line like this. This is 2 kilometers. You travel for 2 kilometers um, in a time period of half an hour. Now, what is your speed? Speed is nothing but distance traveled divided by time taken. So your distance is 2 kilometers and time taken is 1 by 2. So that means your speed is 4 kilometer per hour. 4 kilometer per hour. Since you are changing your direction all the time, so speed is a scalar quantity. So you can remember, yes. And the analogous term to speed is velocity. In the case of velocity, instead of taking distance, you have to take displacement. So displacement divided by time, then it is velocity. So velocity, you can remember, is a vector quantity. That is the best way to remember. So daily life, in our daily life, we come across speed. Speed is measured by speedometer. So all the vehicles have got speedometers, but no speedometer measures velocity. Distance is measured by an instrument called odometer. In our vehicles, both odometer and speedometer are arranged in the same meter. Though they are two different meters, these two devices are seen in one device. So for measuring distance also, people answer that we make use of speedometer. That is not correct. Now let us go to further terms related to motion. The next term is average speed and average velocity. What do you mean by average speed? Average speed is, for example, you are going on a bike. In the first second, your speed is 10 meter per second. In the next second, it is 25 meter per second. Suddenly, some buffalo came across the road. You decreased your speed to 2 meter per second. In this way, you are changing your speeds. And you travel, let us say, for 1 kilometer. So this is the total distance covered. Let us say you took the time period of, let us say, quarter of the hour. That is, you covered in 15 minutes. What was your speed? The speed is given by, so speed is equal to total distance divided by total time taken. Though you traveled with different speeds at different places or at different points of your journey, in order to calculate, I am taking some average type of term that is called average speed. So what do you mean by average speed? Average speed is total distance divided by total time. So I am not concerned with my speeds at different junctures. Now what is the total distance? Total distance is 1 kilometer and this is 1/4 of an hour. So it will become 4 kilometer per hour. It may not be same at all the points. You might be traveling with some other speeds in the middle of your journey. This is called average speed. Instead of taking this, let us take, so as I told you, it is a straight line motion. So this is x is equal to 0. Initially you are at this point, that is x1. You travel to another point x2 in a time period delta t. That is the time interval. Now average speed is given by delta x by delta t. Here delta x is x2 minus x1, delta t is t2 minus t1. This is called average speed. Its units are meter per second. The same can be written for average velocity. So what is the formula for average velocity? Instead of distance, you have to take displacement. So this is total displacement divided by total time taken. So you will find a number of problems based on this. Now I will try to solve two problems related to average speed. As I told you, in our daily life, interchangeably we use speed and velocity. We don't consider any difference between these two. Right. Now take the example of a person who is traveling from point A to point B. Let us say somebody is going on the bike. Let us say he covered this distance in a time period t. In first half of the time period, he traveled with a speed v1 or velocity v1, and next half of the time, this is t by 2. In another t by 2, he traveled with a speed v2. Now what is his average speed? For example, it took 1 hour to reach B from A. During his first half an hour of the journey, he traveled with a speed v1, and in the next half of his time period, he traveled with v2. It doesn't mean that the distances are same. Let us say v1 is less than v2. That is the reason why he was slow here. So he covered less distance. Here the speed is more, he covered more distance. Now how to find the average speed? So average speed is equal to total distance. Let us say total distance is d. Generally we use d for distance and s for displacement. Now average speed is total distance divided by total time. But I don't know the distance. Let us say the distance in the first time interval is d1 and in the next time interval is d2. So I can write this as d1 plus d2 by t. But d1 and d2 are unknown terms. I am given with v1 and t by 2, v2 and t by 2. So for that purpose, I have to write d1 and d2 in terms of known terms. So this is the best formula you have to remember. Velocity or distance, velocity or speed is d by t. So d is equal to velocity into time. So I can write d1 is equal to, so first speed is v1 and first time interval is t by 2. In the same way, v2 t by 2 divided by t. So you can take t common and you can cancel. So you will end up with, so average speed is equal to v1 plus v2 by 2. This is the final outcome. Suppose the same person starting from A and reaching B, he covered the first half of the distance, exactly half. Let us say if it is 1 kilometer, half kilometer and half kilometer. So this distance, here distance is divided into two equal parts. Your time interval is divided. So he traveled with v1 for the first half of the distance of his path and the second one with v2. Now find out average speed. So average speed is equal to, so the formula remains same, d by t. But the thing is, I know d, but I don't know t. How much time it took to travel this much distance? Let us say this is t1 and this is t2. So I write this as d by t1 plus t2. I don't know the values of t1 and t2. I have to get t1, t2 values in terms of known values. So known values are v1 d by 2, v2 d by 2. So in order to get time, use the same formula. So t is equal to distance by speed. So I can write average speed in this case is equal to, this is same d, no change. So instead of t1 I have to write d by 2 by v1 plus d by 2 by v2. So you can simplify that. So this is d divided by, I can take d by 2 common, this is 1 by v1 plus 1 by v2. So d gets cancelled. So 2 goes into the numerator, this is 2. So if I take the LCM, it becomes v1 v2, and here I will get v1 plus v2. So this whole goes into the numerator. So average speed in this case is equal to 2 v1 v2 divided by v1 plus v2. In this way you can continue, you can do it as an assignment. You take a distance traveled by a passenger from A to B and you cut it into 3 equal parts, that is d by 3, d by 3 and d by 3. The first part of 1/3 part of his path, he travelled with speeds v1, in the second one v2 and the last one v3. Follow the same steps and you will end up with the average speed, and the formula will be 3 v1 v2 v3 divided by v1 v2 plus v2 v3 plus v3 v1. This you can do. So this is about average speed. You will find number of problems on average speed in various examinations. There is another term related to velocity or speed, that is called instantaneous velocity or instantaneous speed. What do you mean by instantaneous? Instantaneous means at a particular instant. Instant means time. As I told you, you are going from A to B. So during your journey, at some time you travel with a speed of 20 meters per second. In the next second you may increase it to 30. Suddenly you may drop to 10. Suddenly you may stop. Suppose there is a railway gate or there is a traffic signal, red signal. Because of that you have to stop. So your velocity becomes 0. So at a particular instant of time, what is your speed? That is given by instantaneous velocity or instantaneous speed. So let us take instantaneous velocity. So instantaneous velocity is defined as limit delta x tends to 0 delta x by delta t. That is, your time interval is tending to 0, this is delta t tends to 0. Your time interval is tending to 0 means you are talking of at a particular second. Not equal to 0, but tending to 0. In mathematics, it is nothing but differentiation. This is called differentiation of x with respect to time. So if you differentiate a distance with respect to time, you will get instantaneous velocity. That is instantaneous speed. If instead of x, if you take s, that is displacement, then that becomes velocity. So in the case of velocity, you have to use ds by dt. In the case of speed, it is dx by dt. As I told you, both are almost all one and the same for our purposes, not in principle. So instantaneous velocity or instantaneous speed are nothing but velocity or speed at that particular time. Generally, we talk of this. So instantaneous velocity is generally called as velocity. Instantaneous speed is called generally speed. So while you are going on a bike, you look at your speedometer. It says 62 km per hour. That is your instantaneous speed at that particular point of time. So instantaneous velocity is nothing but average velocity when the time interval is tending to 0. Now, this dx by dt, that is differentiation, is very useful in solving problems. Now, you started at a point at t is equal to 0. In 1 second, your speed is 10 meters per second. And at the second your speed is 20 meters per second. and at the third second your speed is 30 meter per second. So you are speeding up. So this speeding up, or sometimes you decrease your speed, to describe that we use the term called acceleration, indicated by small a. So acceleration is nothing but rate of change of velocity. So let us say I am going with an initial speed u. For initial speed I use the term u. Final speed is v. I took time t to increase my speed from u to v. The device that is fitted to all the vehicles that gives acceleration is called accelerator. That is called accelerator. So how to define? Acceleration is rate of change. Change is v minus u by time. Rate means whenever you can define velocity, that is rate of displacement. Rate of means you divide it you divide displacement with time. Whenever rate comes in physics, you have to divide with time. Your rate of change of velocity. Change means delta v. I am dividing it with time. This is called rate of change of velocity. Velocity and speed are measured in meter per second. What about acceleration? Acceleration is for speed or velocity I have to take meter per second, and for time once again second, so it becomes meter per second square. So in the case of acceleration, we find one more opposite term to acceleration that indicates the negativity of acceleration, that is called retardation. What do you mean by retardation? I think you understood acceleration. Now you increase the pressure on the accelerator in the case of a car, or you rotate the accelerating bar in the case of a bike in one direction so that the speed increases. If you rotate your wrist in the opposite direction, the speed decreases. That is called retardation. Now the basic definition is A is equal to v minus u by t. V is the final. If v is greater than u, you have positive acceleration. That we call generally acceleration. Suppose if v is less than u, you are going with a speed of 100 meter per second, suddenly you stop to 0. Your final velocity is 0, initial velocity is 100. In how many seconds you applied brakes and stopped the vehicle? In 10 seconds. For example, it becomes minus 10 meter per second square. Here you are getting a negative a value. This negative a term is called retardation. Another term that also indicates retardation is called deceleration. So negative a is called retardation or deceleration. If a is equal to 0, what does it mean? There are two possibilities. A means delta v by delta t. If this is 0, that means delta v is equal to 0. Change is 0. Change is 0 indicates, it implies that two possibilities are there. One is v is constant. The other one is v is 0. If the object is at rest, you take the example of a mountain which is not at all moving, no question of speed, no question of acceleration. You are going on the bike with a constant speed, no change. Then you have a 0 acceleration. Acceleration is a vector quantity because velocity is also a vector quantity. So you can bring some change in acceleration in two ways. One way is by changing or by bringing change in the velocity. So velocity means speed plus direction. You remember, velocity is a vector, speed is a scalar. What is the difference between velocity and speed? If you add direction to speed, then it becomes a vector. So how to bring change in velocity? Either by changing its speed or by changing its direction. Suppose a boy is running along a circular path. with a constant speed 10 meter per second, but his direction is changing. His direction is given by the tangent. Is changing his direction at different positions. The direction of velocity is this one here, then it changed, then it changed. It indicates that in the case of a circular motion, if the boy is running with a constant speed also, you have acceleration, though there is no change in the magnitude of this velocity. Since the direction is changing, there you have acceleration. We talk of a term called uniform velocity. Uniform velocity is constant. Uniform acceleration, acceleration is constant. In the case of a freely falling object, the velocity gradually increases, and that acceleration is called acceleration due to gravity. If I throw a stone vertically upwards, that is going against to the gravitational attraction, its speed gradually decreases and becomes zero at this point. So here you have retardation, and that value is minus g. The value of g that we will be discussing in later chapters, that is 9.8 meter per second square. The acceleration of a freely falling object is called acceleration due to gravity, given by small g. Now, the motion of the object can be described graphically by plotting graphs, and the motion of the object can be described mathematically by writing some equations. So in both the ways, I can describe the motion of the object in physics. As I told you, physics does many things. One of its duty is to study about the motion of the objects. We can find the speed of an aeroplane by using a pitot tube. We can find the speed of the blood that is flowing through your veins by using physics, right? Now, I can plot graphs between displacement and time, that is displacement versus time graph. I can plot graph between velocity and time. I can plot a graph between acceleration and time. These are all the three possibilities. They can describe the motion of the object. For example, I start with the displacement time curves. Graphs are also sometimes called curves. For example, so time is taken on x-axis and displacement s is taken on y-axis. Right. Suppose that building is not at all moving. So when I measure the distance of that building from my building, let us say that is 20 meters. So at t is equal to 0 seconds, the building is there only. After 20 seconds, the building is there only. After many years also, the building is there only. What does it mean? The building is at rest. So the distance between my building and that building remains constant with the time. So this indicates the graph for the objects which are at rest. So this is the graph for the bodies which are at rest or stationary objects. Now I plot the same graph in the case of an object which is moving with uniform velocity. So this is s, this is time. For this, I will get a graph of a straight line making 45 degrees with the x-axis, making 45 degrees and going through the origin. So for this, velocity is constant. Now, I will plot one more graph for displacement time to indicate positive acceleration, that is simply acceleration. I will get a graph like this. In this case, I have positive a. Opposite to this, that is, if I have retardation, what will be the shape of that curve? That will be like this. Now, for a displacement time graph, if I take the slope, so slope is nothing but instantaneous velocity. So velocity is given by slope of the ST graph. Slope means y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 is delta s, x2 minus x1 is delta t. It is nothing but that instantaneous velocity. So instantaneous you have to talk in terms of derivatives, ds by dt. So the slope of displacement time graph gives instantaneous velocity. Is it clear? Right. Now I can plot a graph between velocity and time, and I can describe all this. So for the same xy axis, I change S by V. V stands for velocity. Right. So I am taking velocity on y-axis and time on x-axis. If the object is at rest, its velocity must be 0. So the graph is nothing but a straight line passing through the x-axis. So this indicates the object is at rest. That is a stationary object. Now v is constant. I am moving with 10 meter per second throughout my journey. There is no change in 10. So if it is 10, it remains constant. So it's a parallel line to the x-axis. If I have a positive acceleration, so velocity gradually increases with time. So I will get a straight line like this. This is for positive acceleration. In the case of retardation, I will get a straight line with negative slope. So this is velocity and this is time. Now what is the slope of V and T graph gives? So slope, as I told you in your 10th class in mathematics, you might have studied delta y value by delta t value. So delta y is change in velocity, and this is delta x, delta x is delta t. So it is nothing but acceleration. So slope gives dv by dt. dv by dt is nothing but acceleration. Now the area under Vt graph, suppose I want to measure this area under this Vt graph. So area is nothing but, if it is a rectangle, for a rectangle length into breadth gives the area. So area is nothing but V into T. So area is equal to velocity into time. Velocity is displacement by time into time. Time gets cancelled. So this is called displacement. The area under velocity time graph gives displacement. So this is about the basic terms of terminology and some graphs, and we have to continue with equations of motion that we will be doing in the next video. Thank you.